Okay, welcome back. Before we get started today, I wanted to do a quick recap. Um, Last time we were together, we spoke about work breakdown structure and prioritized task list. And you know by now that I don't really want to talk in terms of work breakdown structure because I don't think that's for people who make schedules that they use to watch their projects go into the toilet. I want to speak in terms of prioritized task lists. And I'm going to show you why in just a minute. But the important things that I would like you to understand is that first, that prioritized task list should start at the estimate phase. You have to compile your data in some sort of manner that you can import and create a schedule with it. Okay? And if your company doesn't do that for you, you may have to do that yourself. But there's a lot of benefits to it, and I'm about to reveal those to you. But it has to start there at the estimate. Now, this prioritized task list is broken up by phase of construction. And that list of phases and list of tasks should also be reflected in your accounting system. Okay, because your company is probably already tracking their labor by some sort of cost category. And you need to find out what that is. And normally, you can use that as your framework to build your prioritized task list. I have even been successful with companies in reorganizing their cost codes in their accounting software, and sometimes, that's necessary or beneficial, and a lot of times companies who track their labor by cost code don't do a very good job of it. And if you can show them how to do a better job, they're willing to come along for the ride, okay? Sometimes that takes building a project for them this way to show them the benefits, and then all of a sudden they'll start cooperating. Either way, ultimately, the data that we generate from building a project needs to feed back to the accounting department and ultimately back to the estimating department. Okay? So the whole goal of tracking these cost codes in accounting is so they can feed information to the estimating department to let them know how they're performing in different categories. And that's ultimately what we are going to do with the data that we capture managing these projects. So, so far, here's what we did. I built an estimate. I created my prioritized task list right inside of that estimate so that when I imported it into the software, it was already, I had the framework for my master schedule, right? And then once we got that data imported into the software, we went through and fine-tuned it by adjusting some of those categories around, both the phases of construction and the task lists in each one. Okay, and we came up with this master schedule right here. And then we basically assigned dates for every task so that we built our schedule out how we expect it to flow through the project. A lot of that, if you're working as, for an electrical contractor, a lot of that flow is going to be determined by the general contractor. A lot of times they will give you slots of time for each category of work, underground, above slab, lighting, trim out, things like that. So they'll already kind of have your framework built, and then you just need to slot your tasks into those dates or windows of time that they give you, okay? But I want to jump a little bit ahead today. We're going to come back to this Gantt chart, this master schedule. There's still a lot of things in here that I want to show you, and a lot of things still that we can do to this to make it better. But just so you know where we're going with this process, I'm going to jump ahead for a minute and kind of give you a glimpse of what's to come, and then we're going to drop back to this Gantt chart and we're going to finish it up so that we have a real good working master schedule, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the process. But the main thing I would like you to understand is that I'm not just teaching you how to use some software here. This is a process, an entire process, start to finish, for a project that I put together over 30 years that has provided me a lot of success and a lot of recognition. And if you'll follow it the way that I'm showing you or going to show you, you will get the same results that I get. I mean, I've used it enough times now, over 30 years and 10 years as actual software, that I, know what results I'm going to get every time. It's always, the same. I always get consistent results out of it. Okay, that's not to say that someone's not going to hand you a losing project, but even if they give you a losing project, you're going to be able to minimize those losses, and in some cases save their ass by following this process. So the first thing I want to do is direct your attention to this list over here. These are, of course, our phases of construction in purple, and the tasks listed underneath them. And then over here are our start dates, and now we know our crew size, right? So the goal of this is what I call field management, as opposed to project management, right? Because I think that that's where the ball gets dropped. Companies spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort organizing their projects at the office level, but most of them don't have a way to drive that information down to the lowest worker on the crew. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that information in the estimate, we're going to drive it down to the lowest worker on the crew so that they know exactly what their responsibility is in order to create profitable results on the project. Okay, so this little section right here is going to be important to us. And what we're going to do now is we're going to write schedules for these two crews. This crew has 3 members, and that's your underground feeder conduit, and then your underground branch conduit has a 3-man crew as well. So that's going to be 6 workers. We're going to run those 2 tasks concurrent with each other, right, at the same time. So I'm going to go back to this tab, and we're going to open up this schedules tab right here. This is where our 2-week rolling schedules are. And we're going to click create a timesheet. Now you can select your start date here, and I think our Gantt chart was for like 2016, so we're way past that. Really doesn't matter when you schedule it. The schedule always starts on a Monday. Doesn't mean you have to start your work on a Monday, but the schedule will start on a Monday. The program doesn't care when you actually start the work. But we'll select the closest Monday to when we're going to start, and then we'll click create a timesheet, and then we're going to click edit. Now the first thing it's going to ask us is, hey, which workers do you want to use on this rolling schedule, this 2-week rolling schedule? So I'm going to select an apprentice, and a journeyman, and a foreman, and then I'm going to select 2 more journeymen and 1 more apprentice. Once you select your workers, you can click View Schedule. It'll pull up your schedule sheets right here. And then I'm going to write the first 2-week rolling schedule for my first worker. And I think what I'll do here is just hide this guy. And I'm going to start with my foreman right here. And I'm going to click this little button. And you'll notice that that's going to pull up the same exact task list that is on our Gantt chart. Okay? This is our first phase of construction. These are the tasks that are listed underneath it. Now, this is where the prioritized task list comes into play, because ultimately what's going to happen is you can, as a project manager or any type of manager, superintendent, whoever, you can actually write these 2-week rolling schedules from the office if that's what you choose to do. My preference is for the foreman in the field to write the schedule, because they know what the job site conditions are, and what they've already completed, what they need to tackle. They're more tuned into the actual construction site. So what we've done is we've told them what order we want them to work on these tasks in. And as much as they are able, that is what they should do. But we want to make it very simple for these people in the field, these foremen in the field, to write their own schedule for their own crew. And these guys in the field, what they understand is a to-do list. Here's what they do. They start working because they got a big job site and lots of places to work, and then they start building a project, and pretty soon then they go, well, where are we? Let me walk through this job site, and they start making a list of things that still need to be completed, and then they start working on that list. Okay, that's what always happens. So what we've done is we've already provided them with that list right here. It's something they are used to using, and it's something that's familiar to them, and so it makes it real simple for them to adapt to. We want things to be easy for the people in the field. So this foreman right here, we're going to say this foreman, Mr. Tim Nolan, is going to take this journeyman, Mr. John Carlson, and this apprentice, Mr. Bill Anderson, and he is going to use those two guys to help him install the feeder underground conduit. So all he's got to do is select the tasks in the order that we have them listed here. He's going to start with his primary conduit, and it will actually assign it to him right up here. And then the secondary conduit, it'll assign that up there, and the cable TV, and then the telephone conduit, and he's done. Okay, this is the phase of construction he's going to work on right now. Those are the tasks he's going to do with his two guys. Now, over here it tells him how many hours he has to complete that work. These hours are based on the actual estimate. So if you remember, when we put our project together, we plugged in an average labor rate. So the program knows how many hours there are in each task, and it knows what the average labor rate is. It multiplies them together to come up with a labor budget. And then what it does is it looks at this guy's wage, Mr. Tim Nolan, and it says, okay, at our average labor rate, we have these many hours to install this material, but let's take a look at how many hours Mr. Tim Nolan has, because his wage might be, and probably is, different than our average labor rate. So it's going to take that material or labor budget, hours times average labor rate, and divide it by his actual wage, and it's going to tell him how much time he has to complete that work profitably. Now, obviously, the lower paid a worker is, like this apprentice up here, since his wage is lower, when you divide that labor budget by his wage, he's going to actually get more hours to install the material than the foreman is, who is a higher paid guy. So it really kind of evens the playing field. The lower your skill, the lower your pay, the longer it's going to take you to install the material, right? So it takes that into account and does the math and lets each worker know how much time they have to complete the tasks. And just to illustrate that, let me close this for a minute, and then I'm going to open up Mr. Bill Anderson, and we'll assign the same exact task to him. So this is the underground feeder conduit, and you can manually select those right up here. And we'll select this primary conduit task, and you'll notice that when I select a lower paid worker, what's going to happen is it's going to drop that average labor rate from Tim Nolan. It's going to kind of water down his wage, so the hours are actually going to increase. So let's go ahead and select the primary conduit. See, now they went up to 68.99 hours. So the software is constantly analyzing the crew average labor rate as you add people in, and it's adjusting the hours, the time that they have to install the material. Okay, so I'm going to close this out for a minute, and I'll close this again. And then I want to assign these same tasks to these other two workers, Bill Anderson and John Carlson, and there's an easy way to do that. You can just clone your schedule over to them. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to make Mr. Tim Nolan the source schedule, and the destination is going to go to these two workers, and I'm going to confirm that. And if I open them all three up now, you'll see that they all have the same task. The hours have been adjusted for the entire crew, okay? And then the next thing I'm going to do for this second crew down here is I'm going to assign them to work on the branch conduit. So we'll select those tasks for these three guys. Then we'll close this up and clone them again. So we'll make this the source, and these two down here the destination, and we'll confirm that, and then we'll open this up and we'll see that everybody has been scheduled their work. Obviously this probably isn't going to be might not be 2 weeks for all of these guys, but it's the only work we need to do right now, and then we can leave until they build their project and then come back when they have the building up and go inside and work. So the next thing we want to do is populate the data, and what that's going to do is fill in their timesheets right here. Okay, and this now tells each worker exactly what they need to work on for, the duration of these tasks. Ultimately, what we would do is add enough tasks in here to create a complete 2-week schedule for them, right? Okay. Now, you can print any page in this program. I'm just going to right click right here and select print. It's actually printing to PDF right now, but let me see what paper we got. We don't want that. Letter, I'm going to go legal. I generally print the schedules on a legal size paper, just makes it a little bigger. So you can see that, we could print out the entire crew schedule if we wanted to. Or, let me close out of here. We can close all of these except one. And then right click and select print. And it'll print out individual schedules for each worker. So this is generally what I do. I like to print these out. I like to hand them to them, and so that they know what they're going to be working on for the next 2 weeks. I don't generally print this schedule right here. I'll show you what I typically do. I'll close out of these schedules right here, and I'll go into enter actual hours. So this sheet right here is where they'll actually enter their time in. So, if I wanted to, I could enter time for these guys right here, right? Let me take that out of there. Now let me click print. Okay, so if we print it out this way, it tells them how many hours they have to work on each task, and they can handwrite in this space right here how many hours they actually did work on it. And then I can collect these sheets and I can enter that time into the program if I want. There is also, you can give them login access so they could actually log into the program. The only thing they're going to be able to see is their own timesheet, their schedule. They can enter in time. They can do that on a smartphone, a tablet, a computer, whatever. There's also a phone app that makes it a little easier for entering time. But I'm jumping a little bit ahead right now. But this is where we're going. So we're going to start telling our workers where we want them to work and how much time they have to complete their tasks. The software is actually determining that based on their wage and how many dollars there are in the tasks that they're working on. So, you know, it's a little bit different than telling a worker, here, go work on this primary conduit right here and come see me when you're done. I mean, how long is that going to take, right? It's going to take till they're done. It might take 3 days. It might take 7 days, depending on who you're dealing with. But this right here tells them, come Wednesday about lunchtime, you better be done with that or you're going to be costing the company money. And that's what I tell them. This is how much time the estimate says you have to complete this work. And if you take longer than that, you're going to be costing the company money. And when you make that statement to people, things just magically start getting done on time. It just happens, okay? So anyway, this is where I want to go for this week. I'll kind of end this here right now. But I wanted you to see where this master schedule is leading to. And then next week I'm going to drop back to the master schedule. We're going to do some more work on that because there's some things we can do in there to help make our project more successful. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to enter in time for these 6 workers. Okay, so just enter in time, but don't enter in just the hours that are given to them right here. What I want you to do is make this first crew superstars. I want you to have them finish their work early, so I'll go maybe 16 hours here, and then I'll say, okay, now they started on this task right here. And, you know, that took them 12 hours, and then I'll go on to the next task, which is only 2 hours, so I'll just put in 2 and 2, something like that. So what I've done is I've made this worker look like he's beating my hours, right? So do that for the first 3 workers, and then the next 3, I want you to make them look bad. So make them go over their hours, 8, 8, 8, 8. Like this, and then maybe 2 and 2, something like that. So enter the time for all 6 workers. Make the first 3 look like superstars. Make the last 3 look like losers, okay? The reason I want to do this is because then we're going to go into some reporting, and I'll show you how much power we have in there as far as analyzing what's going on our projects and who's naughty and who's nice, and being able to tell that and things like that, okay? So that's your assignment for this week. Write 2-week rolling schedules, enter in the hours, make the first crew the feeder conduit, make them look like superstars, the underground branch guys, make them look like losers, and then next week we'll come back and we'll dive back into that master schedule, and I'll show you some other tools in there that we can use to help make our project a success. Okay? Thank you guys. Have a good week, man.